Hey, everybody. That is right, man. Welcome back. Episode 97 of the Bowfishing Buzz coming through your ears on some sound waves.
Yep.
Yes. Episode 97, Schmitty, brought to you by AMS Bowfishing and
Megamouth Bowfishing, of course, our fantastic sponsors and designs, leatherwork and embroidery, efficiency bowfishing lights by Outdoor Innovations.
So nice.
USA, some great sponsors here.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're back in the saddle. We're back up here. We were just here last week, actually, doing one here. March marks our first month of doing bi-weekly podcasts.
Right.
We had been doing them once a month during the slower portion of the bowfishing season, but March is now bi-weekly that we'll be doing this, and we're coming out with this one back-to-back just because this week will be part 2 with Steve Kobrine.
Right.
Africa and South America bowfishing adventures. We kind of wanted to bring this one to you guys the week afterwards just so that, last week we got to hear some amazing things from Steve. Sitting here listening was just amazing to experience these wild stories that he had. So we want to bring this one to you guys while it's all fresh, still up there in your heads listening to it and whatnot. So we're going to do an intro, share some information. Then we will dive into part 2 of Steve Kobrine from last week. That's right. And then we'll do an outro. So we're ready to rock and roll here on episode 97.
That's right. And my name is Matthew, and of course, right on your side here, we got D. Schmitty.
Yes, sir.
Still single, ladies. Still single, ladies.
Every podcast. Every podcast. Oh, an applause for still being single. Okay. All right. Okay. Yep.
That's right. Schmitty, I tell you what, right now is a great time if you're looking at maybe trying to get out of your own home waters, your own home state, to try to go target some different species, and you really don't know who to go with, where to go.
Yeah.
Man, right now is a great time. Head on over to the BAA Facebook page.
Oh, yes. Yep.
They have their March Madness auctions going on to help raise money for the 2025 BAA Worlds.
Yeah, very cool. It's a very cool thing that they do to raise money for that. It's a great way to get all these different guides and places out there. Fantastic, just like you said, to get out of that comfort zone and go do some stuff that you've maybe always wanted to do and just haven't quite bit the bullet yet.
Right. For example, right now up for bid, I think until tomorrow, is Florida Bowfishing Adventures.
Oh, okay.
And what you do is you go on and you make a comment. Look for the highest bid. If you want to go $50 over the highest bid, put it on there. And that's how they do it. Then on the 19th, we got Stick and Fins, a diver duck hunt.
Whoa.
Wonder if they dive at your noggin.
I hope not.
Oh, that'd be like B-52s coming down on you.
Yeah, you'd have to wear a helmet.
On the 21st, we got Carp Noctum Outfitters. On the 23rd, we got Night Shift Charters. The 25th, we got Triple Threat Charters for Gator Gar.
Oh, very cool.
So, right there. I know there's a lot of guys that don't live where there's Gator Gars. They want to go out and try it for Gator Gars. Right there you go. Go put a bid in. You might be lucky and get a good price on that.
Absolutely.
And then on the 27th, Stick and Fins again here. On the 29th, we got Renegade Bowfishing.
Very cool. Very cool. And something else with this, Matt, too, that I've noticed on these bids. Like you said, you comment your price in the comments.
Correct.
And you'll see that slowly climb throughout. A lot of times, these fantastic guide services that are out here, you can get it for a pretty good price in those comments. It'll be less than what you would if you'd go and do it on a website, usually depending on what the bid is.
Yes.
But it can be a very good way, like we were talking about, to get out there and shoot some species that you've never shot before. Experience some other waters.
Go to a different state, shoot bowfishing in a different state. Yeah. Really cool thing they got going on there.
Really cool, really cool. Well, I'll tell you what, Matt, besides bowfishing season around here at least starting to get into full swing, which, boy, my Snapchat stories this weekend had some fish being shot.
There's some fish being shot.
March also marked March Madness.
Yep.
And I'm sure you guys listening to the podcast, Matt and I seem to have some different thoughts and ideas on some basketball-related topics. But, whatever. I mean, agree to disagree, whatever we're going to do. We have the girls' Wisconsin state tournament was this past weekend. Next weekend, we got the boys' high school state games. This Thursday, college, March Madness, the big kahuna. The big games start on Thursday. We always have a bracket going on here.
It's a lot of fun.
At the AMS shop here. We get everybody involved. It's really cool. Most of the times, the person who wins doesn't watch college basketball at all.
No.
I'll sit and
They'll
sweat.
go buy their favorite mascot.
Yep. Oh, I like pink more than blue. Boop.
Right.
I'm going to vote them. McNeese State to win it all. That happens a lot. Matt, what's your team name for our AMS shop March Madness bracket? Do you know what your team name is?
My team name is the GOAT Jordans.
Oh, okay, of course. I knew it was going to be something
Goat
related
Jordans.
to that. Okay.
What's your team
My
name?
team name's better than yours. Mine's better than yours.
You picked the TV show.
What? The movie?
Yeah.
The Big Lebowski?
Yeah.
But it's a little different. It's the Big Lebronsky.
Yeah. The Big Lebronsky.
Come on, you can't even beat that's the best team in the whole bracket right there.
Geez.
Hands down, ready to rock and roll. And you know what, guys? This is a bowfishing podcast, but I'm just going to, in case anyone at the WIAA here, the Wisconsin Interscholastic, I don't even know what the A's stand for, the Wisconsin high school people are listening to this, let's do whatever we got to do to get a shot clock in high school. Oh, man. We need it desperately. We're taking the last 5 minutes of the most exciting part of the game, and we're turning it into it'll be 2 possessions, 2.5 minutes apiece in a tie game. What are we doing? It's ridiculous.
It's funny because you say that, they need money. They need money to put the shot clocks in. These schools have beautiful auditoriums, beautiful arts and science stuff. I mean, they got a lot of money, and I don't think it would cost them very much to put shot clocks in high school.
I don't know. It would make the game so much more exciting to watch.
Yeah. Yep. Actually, Derek, wife and I are heading down to the boys' state games here on Friday.
Oh, very cool. That's nice. That's cool.
Yep. We've got a local team 10 miles away that's Division I. That's in at Marshfield.
Yeah, and a friend of yours is the
my
head coach.
wife's cousin is the coach.
Yeah.
Chris Fisher.
Very cool.
He coaches the Marshfield Tigers.
Yeah. Yep.
We almost had 2 Tiger mascot teams within 10 miles going to state. We had the Stratford Tigers and the Marshfield Tigers.
Which is crazy. I remember always thinking that in high school, like, what are the odds that we each are Tigers? We're 10 miles apart, and we're both Tigers. Yeah.
So looking forward to going down and
Stratford didn't quite make it down there. Great season for them, though, but it was very cool.
Yep.
There's one thing, Matt, that I wanted to bring up.
I have a
go ahead. Go ahead if this is the same thing.
So we're on the topics of sports here a little bit, but I asked you a question the other day.
This is ridiculous.
Are NASCAR drivers athletes, Derek?
Yes, I would say that they are classified as athletes. Yes, to that question, I would say yes.
Okay. Who's in better shape, NASCAR drivers or NBA players?
Hands down, without a doubt in my mind. Never had to not think even more about this. Nothing at all. NBA players are in better shape than NASCAR drivers.
Okay. All right.
Oh, what? You got some stats you looked up to try to break it down here?
What's the actual time of an NBA game?
48 minutes.
Yes, divided by 4
quarter breaks.
Quarters.
Okay.
There's commercial breaks in there. There's timeouts in there.
Yep.
There's a 15-minute halftime.
Okay. All right.
In there.
Yep.
There's substitutions.
Okay. Yes, there are all these things. Yes.
Indoors. Air conditioning. Right? They're air conditioned, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine taking the Phoenix Suns basketball team.
Okay. I just watched them a couple weeks ago.
Okay. And take, for example, the Detroit Pistons go there to play a game.
Okay. Detroit's in Phoenix. Okay.
Yep. Take them outside, make them wear snowmobile suits.
This is not the same thing.
And make them play a game when it's 150 degrees out.
This is not the same. Are NASCAR drivers running around, jumping up and down, running up and down a floor in their car? No. You're not comparing things. This is apples to oranges here.
I'm just saying, a NASCAR driver has to be in tip-top shape. He's putting on a fire suit. He's driving in a car that's sometimes 140 to 150 degrees inside the car.
You don't have to be in shape to be warm.
500 miles. They'll lose between 10 to 15 pounds per race.
Okay.
Water pounds.
That's what...
Per race. No timeouts. No half times. No substitutions. No commercial breaks.
Matt, you're sitting in a car. You're sitting in a car.
Going 200 miles an hour with 2 to 3 Gs, sometimes 3.5 Gs every single lap.
You and your Gs. Gee whiz is what I got to say about that.
Do you know what a G is?
Some gravity thing. Something with gravity. No. Okay. Are you done making your case?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
All
not.
Right, continue, Skip Bayless.
All right. You take the best physical shape basketball player out there right now.
LeBron James.
No.
Well,
okay, let's take LeBron James.
All right.
Let's take him to either Bristol Motor Speedway, a half mile, or Talladega, 2.6 miles.
Okay.
Take him around that track at top speeds with the Gs. I bet you he's passing out within 2 laps.
Okay, these are totally different
things. If he doesn't pass out, he's pooping his pants because he's scared. He's going to poop his pants.
Okay, just
diaper.
Let me break this down.
Diaper.
When you say someone is in good shape, what are the things that comes to mind? They're probably fast, right? Would you say that has to be in good shape?
Stamina.
Yep. Stamina.
Yep.
You have to be strong.
Coordination.
You have to be strong.
Yes.
Strong, fast. You've got to be able to jump. You've got to be able to cut. These are all basketball things. This is what basketball players do their entire time that they're in the game.
Reflexes.
Yes, reflex is very important.
Driving 200 miles an hour, there's a crash in front of you.
Oh, my gosh. This is not...
You know how fast 200 yards closes going 200 miles an hour?
Yes, I understand that. I get it. You don't have
how fast you got to react.
You don't have to be in good shape to have good reflexes. That's not a thing.
Some of the best eye coordination guys play baseball. I couldn't go in there and hit a baseball.
You couldn't go in there and play in an NBA game either.
I bet you could take a NASCAR player, could go and not get winded. No, he'll get winded, but not terribly bad as if you take a NBA player and put him in a NASCAR.
Okay.
He's shot.
He
is shot.
We can argue this any which way or form. For everybody listening, please comment on our social media post or email us, send us a message. I'll give out my direct cell phone number because this needs to be decided. Who's in better shape, NASCAR drivers or NBA players? Please, let's have a vote and settle this once and for all. Okay? Because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. No.
A NASCAR NBA player's going to poop his pants.
Okay. That's your argument? They're going to poop their pants?
Yeah.
No. NBA,
they're going to be so scared.
Way.
They're going to be so scared going on that track. Especially then if you put another 43 cars out there going bumper to bumper at 200 miles an hour, they're fainting.
Just please vote, people. Please put a comment. This needs to be decided. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, we had this big discussion while we were building Ringo bows last week.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I think rate actually went through the roof when we were building. We were so revved up. We were just boxing and building them like you wouldn't believe. Okay.
Yep,
All right. Yeah.
Schmitty, we need to give a shout-out to our little buddy over in Michigan, Easton Borgias. He sent me a message last week that he was itching to get out to go bow fishing, and he wasn't going to let the ice stop him.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
He said, here in Michigan, we have a lake where it's legal to shoot perch.
What?
For a few months out of the winter.
Could you imagine trying to shoot a perch? Good Lord.
So what does Easton do?
Oh, boy.
He goes out, and he shoots a couple of records.
No way.
BAA Michigan Youth Yellow Perch, BAA Yellow Perch, and BAA Youth World Record with a .14 pounder. All with his Ringo bow.
Let's go. That's awesome.
Congratulations, Easton.
Oh, my gosh.
Nice job.
That's got to be so difficult. Shoot a little perch?
Yep.
Good Lord.
That's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
That's pretty neat.
Nice shooting, dude.
And congrats to the state of Michigan for allowing that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's neat.
I'd be curious, what that body of water is. Do they have too much perch in them? They're looking to get that population down, or what the deal is. That's very interesting.
No different. Just like South Dakota allows, northern walleye, special times of the year, special regulations, certain areas. That's really cool. Salmon, that's really cool.
Yeah, well, nice shooting, Easton. That's crazy.
Yep, that's pretty cool.
Well, I tell you what, Matt, let's dive into the informational portion of the Bowfishing Buzz podcast. That's enough with the NASCAR.
I thought the NASCAR NBA
that was
informational.
That was misinformation. That's what that calls. You know what that was right there? That was fake news. Wrong. No. Wrong.
Mine was coming from Fox News. Yours was coming from MSNBC.
Okay. Why are we going to assign news teams to this all of a sudden? All right. Well, anyway, guys, let's get into the information portion. Matt and I thought it would be a very cool little breakdown here. If you guys follow AMS on Facebook.
Yeah.
Last week, Matt put a picture out. Big old mirror carp. He said, let's see some mirror carp. We got over 100 comments, some awesome pictures. We just want to do a little bit of a breakdown on mirror carp and maybe some fish that might look like a mirror, but they're not quite a mirror.
Yes.
So a mirror carp, biologically, mirror and common carp are the same. It's just a genetic mutation that causes the irregular scaling. And for people who might not know what a mirror carp is, imagine a common carp and now just delete 70% of their scales, or they get weird orientations. It's just not that typical scale pattern. They're very unique and cool looking.
Beautiful looking. Some are some giant scales, some really tightly knit small scale with a big scale, and very cool.
Yeah,
very
cool. They're not uniform like a common carp would be. Unlike common carp with regular even scale patterns, mirror carp have irregularly patchy or sparse scaling, which can range from having a few scales to being almost scaleless. The mirror carp was the first genetic mutation of common carp, and it is believed believe that monks selectively bred them for easier preparation on the table.
That's crazy.
That is wild. Yeah. So they don't have to cut through as many scales when they're filleting them.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
Huh.
That's pretty crazy.
That is mind-blowing. I'm just imagining that right now. I'm imagining in my head filleting a walleye with no scales. That would be a little easier for the old Mr. Fisherman to cut through.
Can you imagine these, the old armor that the carp have on there.
I'd have never thought that it was in relation to table fare.
That's why the carp, yes.
Huh.
Carp, a lot of table fare overseas.
Interesting.
And stuff. Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Schmitty, that's some pretty cool stuff on the Mirror Carp.
Oh, yeah.
We've also got the leather carp.
The leather carp. The lesser known leather carp.
Leather carp can be identified by its lack of scales and an almost leather effect skin. Although they are allowed some scales on the dorsal line and at the wrist of the tail, most people believe that leather carp are simply mirror carp without scales. But that is untrue, Schmitty. Leather carp are proven to be genetically different from mirror carp.
So
genetically, they're different.
Yeah, so you've got
the mirror carp are the same as carp.
So you've got 3 different variations of a common carp. You've got your traditional common carp, then you'll have mirror carp, and now we've got leather carp.
And there's more. There's ghost carp. There's more that we didn't even dig into, Schmitty.
That's insane. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Leather carp have fewer white blood cells than commons and mirrors and are less efficient at distributing oxygen around their bodies, so they are less able to fight diseases. During periods of low oxygen, when disease can be prevalent, they are far more likely to perish. Their survival rates are only half as good as those of commons and mirrors.
That's crazy, actually.
They're weaklings.
They're like a weakened version of a common carp. You know what you can compare this to,
Oh,
Matt?
my gosh, Derek. I got it. It just came to my head. So the common carp is a version of Michael Jordan. And the leather carp is like a version of LeBron James. He's a little weak. Schmitty.
First of all.
You're like drooling.
First of all, the way you got so excited, you went, wait a minute. The old jazz hands came out. I got it. What I was going to say, much more scientific way of looking at this, you know how like when, say you get sick, Matt's got the stomach flu. Yeah. Then you give it to me. Now I have the stomach flu. Technically, I think supposedly, the virus that went from you to me, it like lessens a little bit. It's not quite as severe. Yeah. And then if I give it to someone, it like gets weaker and weaker every variation that it goes down. Yeah. That's kind of what we're doing here. At the top of the chain, you've got common carp, then you've got mirror carp, and then you've got leatherbacks, but maybe a little bit weaker as we go down that totem pole. That's very interesting. So let me ask you this, Matt. Have you ever shot a leather carp?
Shot a lot of mirror carps.
Yep.
Not a lot, but quite a few.
Yeah.
Some big ones. I think I came pretty close quite a few years back before I really knew about the differences, you know. I think one year, I'm going to look to see if I can find the pictures. It was a good mirror carp with, I can't remember if there was hardly any scales or they were at that base of the tail or dorsal fin area, and the rest was just all skin.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you shoot this carp and go, oh, look, a cool mirror?
Yes.
Meanwhile, you're thinking in your head, well, a leather carp's got to have no scales, but actually it's allowed scales by the dorsal and the wrist of the tail.
Yes.
So maybe it was.
Back then I thought a leather carp, 0 scales. No scales. That was a leather carp.
Interesting.
But now they can have them there, so yeah.
Interesting. Cool. The old leather carp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if anyone has shot any leather carp.
Let's see them.
Send them to us. We'll put them on the pod. We'll put them on social media. Mm-hmm. I want to shoot one, though.
We're going to post some pictures of the ones that everybody posted here last week on our Facebook
on the
page.
Mirror Carp post.
On the Mirror Carp post.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Well, we're just all jacked full of information this week, man. My goodness gracious. Well, I tell you what, we're going to pick up for part 2 of Steve Kobrine. We're going to listen to the rest of that interview, some amazing stories Steve's going to share with us right after this commercial break. Efficiency Bowfishing Lights by Outdoor Innovations USA. A color tone adjustable and dimmable light with a unique patented reflector design that puts more light where you need it. Efficiency Bowfishing Lights offer 3 different models: the 65-watt single color economy light, the 65-watt Efficiency V2 tricolor dimmable light for maximum efficiency and versatility, and the 130-watt Efficiency Maximus, designed to be an all-out beast of a bowfishing light. Efficiency, designed and built by bowfishermen for bowfishermen. Check them out at OutdoorInnovationsUSA.com. Are you looking to elevate your bowfishing brand with stunning design solutions? Look no further than N Designs. Their team of talented designers is dedicated to bringing your vision to life. Whether it's t-shirts, hats, leather products, eye-catching logos, to captivating boat wraps, they have you covered. Plus, with their commitment to excellence and attention to detail, you can trust that your project is in good hands. Don't settle for ordinary. Choose N Designs for extraordinary results. Visit their website today and let's bring your ideas to life. N Designs, where creativity meets excellence. And welcome back, everybody. We're going to dive into part 2 with Steve Kobrine, African and South American bowfishing adventures. Some wild stories to share here.
More cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some stuff that'll make the hair stand up on the back of your neck, 100%. What we're going to do here, what you guys are going to hear, we're going to go back probably 3-4 minutes into last week's episode just so that you can remember what Steve was talking about and then carry it on. But let's hear what Steve has to say in part 2 of African and South American bowfishing adventures.
Let's do it.
Virtually all the fish were good in some way, except the electric eel. It just wasn't very good.
Yeah, he didn't sound very good.
But we ate all the rest. The arapaima, the payara, the vampire fish, peacock bass was fantastic.
Oh.
I shot silver drum, which is a lot like our freshwater drum. We ate the smaller fish, the bigger fish. We ate everything, and it was all pretty good, including the rip saw catfish. There's a catfish there with blades along the side of its body. It's one of the craziest fish you'll ever see.
Wow, we're going to have to look
it
that
has
up.
It has these huge hook-like blades in these big scales down the. You wouldn't even be able to grab the thing at all.
Oh.
You'd end up, needing stitches in the hospital.
No kidding.
And that fish, interestingly enough, Jonathan Smith and I, he was my fishing partner on the trip, we filleted everything every night, and it came off dark red. It looked like tuna.
Oh, wow.
And we cooked it, and it even tasted like tuna.
Oh my
It
gosh.
tasted like a tuna steak.
Wow.
Interesting.
And we were like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess a lot of people question, so for a trip like that, they say, okay, how do you even go about it? Okay, well, I guess the first thing you have to do is what I did, which is I got a hold of a guide down there and got him to agree to allow us to bowfish. And I did that by saying, okay, look, I know that you're mostly a catch and release operation, but let's be honest, catch and release has mortality. I mean, all the studies you do, it's somewhere between 5 and 50%, depending on whether they're sharks or the fish get exhausted.
Yep.
And in South America, there's a lot of piranhas, which do quite a bit of damage to the bigger fish, like the big catfish. Quite a lot of them during the fight or after the fight sustain fatal bites from black piranhas, which get up to 5 pounds.
Wow.
So he was like, you know what? You're right. Catch and release does kill fish.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're only going to shoot 1 or 2 of each species, that's probably not going to do anything different than my catch and release guy.
Sure.
So you can come. So, all right. So there I crossed that threshold. I've got someone who's willing to take them.
Yep.
And, he sent me photos of his boat. We chose this 30-foot aluminum canoe. And then we thought, okay, what are we going to do for lights? I bring lights that mount on the reel seat, which we use a lot of. That's the same type of stuff people use for big heads.
Yes, right.
And then we also brought a little generator. Jonathan brought a 1,000-watt generator. Okay. You're allowed to fly with generators as long as they're new and they have no oil or gas in them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So we packed it in the box. It was a Sportsman's generator, 1,000-watt. We put it in the duffel bag and packed it as it. and then we brought lights, and we brought 4 lights and wired them up, and we built a deck. We tried fishing standing on the seats of the canoe, and it was just so terrible. You can't turn. You're off balance. It's on a canoe already. This is a tippy boat. You're in the rapids a lot, and we were like, okay, we need to do something about this.
Yeah, explain that. Steve, can you explain that boat? Because Aaron Volk sent me a ton of video and pictures that's going to be on our video podcast along with this right here. But can you just explain that boat? Because, bowfishing, we're thinking, we got our big decks. We got, they're 72 wide and they're big or 80 wide.
Yep.
But explain the width of this.
Yeah, this wasn't wide at all. This was probably, 42 inches wide. It's a long boat. They would call it a longboat there. Yeah. It was really, I mean, it was shootable, but I think a lot of people might have been uncomfortable with how wobbly it might have been.
What was on there for a motor? Because the video that Aaron sent me, you guys are going up a pretty good flowing, very shallow.
We went through very shallow. I mean, I can't imagine how many props they have to go through because we ground on rocks a lot.
So is it an outboard
and we
on
went
there?
through. There's an outboard. It's not a jet.
It
it's
is,
just a standard outboard.
Wow.
Yep. So sometimes going downstream, we would pull through rapids, but we went through a lot of rapids. Rapids many, many times a day. And we even shot fish in the rapids. I mean, Jonathan and I made sure we stayed standing because, interestingly enough, that incredibly fast-flowing water was where there was a lot of fish.
Wow.
So if you look at something like the tiger shovel-nosed catfish, it has this very flat head. And then, when you're in there and you realize, when you see one in the middle of a rapid just laying on the ground in water that you wouldn't be able to even climb into without getting washed away, you realize why they have a flat head. It deflects the water over top of them.
Unreal. Yep. Built for
that.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, after the first night, we were like, okay, it's shootable. We shot some fish, but standing in a wobbly boat on the little aluminum seat is just not a long-term plan. But they didn't have planks. The people in the camp, though, they did have a chainsaw. And, those Amerindians from the village, they are used to actually taking down trees, cutting down dead trees, and cutting planks by hand with a chainsaw. Wow. So they actually went out and cut us planks. They literally took a boat upriver, cut down a tree, cut the planks, brought them back, and we built a deck.
That's insane. Right on site.
And it was great.
And that's in South America.
Yeah, that was in Guyana. And we built a deck, and then things got a lot better. And we were able to we fished day and night there.
Okay.
And fishing in the day was not bad. It really wasn't. There was a lot of fish to be taken during the day. We shot tiger, shovel-nosed catfish, pacu, peacock bass, arowana. There was actually a fair amount to be shot during the day.
Cool.
Now, when I say this, the shooting is tough. Like, I'll just be honest with you. It's not like shooting commons in the shallows. I mean, these are fish that are fast. They're 4 or 5 feet deep. The water was clear at that. I waited 3 years to find the lowest water level in history with the least amount of rainfall. So we had crystal clear water.
Right.
So we're, when you're shooting fish 6 feet deep in a rapid standing on a boat like that, and you might only see that species 2 or 3 times in a trip, it's tough. It's tough fishing. You have to be prepared for the fact that it's not like a normal spawn shoot 'em up.
Right. Yeah, that's a little bit different circumstances.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're there not for numbers, but for the experience and to try and, get really wild and different type of fish.
Right.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
And there was. And to the extent where it almost, I hate to say this, but it can almost ruin you for normal fishing because it's so exciting that you might be able to see a 200-pound Piraiba catfish or what, anywhere from that to a piranha. There's thousands. There's, I think, 6,000 species of freshwater fish in South America.
Wow.
That, going out and shooting suckers on the river here is just kind of different afterwards.
Oh, I bet. A little bit different pace there.
Now, Steve, when you and I were on the phone, when I was asking if you wanted to join us on the podcast, we were talking a little bit about some of your trips. And this specific trip here, explain why you waited several years and watched the water levels and the dry periods, because normally you say the water is very dirty over there, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so why did you wait? Or what were you waiting for this trip?
Sure. So, the rainforest of the Amazon is a high rainfall area.
Yes.
So there are times where, from when we were there to at the height of the rainy season, that river comes up on the average 12 to 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I had hunted in Suriname, but 6 or 7 years ago. I was thinking of opening a hunting business in Suriname. So I went hunting and I shot capybara and came in and I was looking for brocket deer, and the water was muddy. But what I did do is developed some friendships down there for people who hunted and fished. And I just kept in touch. And there were a couple of times where the dry season would happen where the water's clearing up and I would almost pull the trigger and say, okay, I'm coming down, because they'd call me and say, it's clear, it's looking good. And then suddenly, we had a pouring rain and the water came up 2 feet and it's all chocolate milk again.
Yep.
So then this year happened where the Essequibo in Guyana, I had the choice of going to Suriname where I had friends or going to Guyana. The difference between those two countries is Guyana, the rivers in the west of the country, like the Essequibo, are occasionally attached to the rivers that flow into the Amazon. So that would be considered sort of part of the Amazon basin. Wow. And because of that, they have species that the Amazon has, like the payara, the vampire fish, that really cool fish with the giant fangs in the bottom of the
crazy. Yep. Yeah.
And the arowana, which Suriname, the neighboring country, doesn't have. So I kind of checked Suriname off the list and say, okay, I want more interesting species that are in Guyana. I need to go to the Essequibo River or the Rupununi. There's a couple rivers out there. And then, so for the last few years, I've just been monitoring it and calling my buddy there. He's kind of a buddy. He owns the company, and I'm, in touch with him a lot. And anyway, asking him about water conditions, because, in my mind, we needed really clear water.
Yeah. Right.
Because a lot of these fish aren't going to be in a foot of water. They might frequent 6 foot deep water. And, eventually we were supposed to get a small rainy season in, December, and that never happened. And I called him and he said, man, I've never seen it this low. It's hard to move the boats through. There's a lot of rapids, but it's crystal clear. And I said, okay, it's time. So I called up Jonathan Smith. I said, I think we need to go. And he said, I'm down.
Wow.
I'm in.
Wow.
Let's roll.
That's really cool.
Good and Lord. 2 weeks later, we rolled in there.
No kidding. So are there like rapids, pool, rapids, pool, or is it all rapids?
It's not all rapids. And I would say it's more still water than pool. So there was in between rapids, there sometimes would be really good gravel, which is only 3 to 4 feet deep, which seemed to hold a lot of fish.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the rapids, I usually almost always wear some sort of life jacket or flotation device or something. I just try and be as safe as possible. I didn't on this trip because I thought, it's probably not that bad. And then we were going up a rapid one night, and I looked back, and our guide, who had never worn a life jacket the whole trip, is suddenly wearing a life jacket.
Oh, God.
I said to Jonathan, I was like, wait a minute. I wonder what's going on here.
Yeah, that's got to make you feel a little paranoid up there.
I was like, do we even have life jackets for us?
Wow.
That's crazy.
So, So, and of course, as usual, right above the rapids, sometimes in the eddy water below the rapids, if there was a little sort of bay to each side, would be good. And we even got to 2 hours north of our camp was an Oxbow Lake where all the arapaima were. That's actually where Jonathan shot that huge tiger shovel-nosed catfish.
Okay. All right.
And it was really dirty. And it was hard to see anything. It was an oxbow which wasn't totally cut off. So there was a little entrance from the main river. So it essentially was non-flowing water. There was a lot of arowanas there and a massive amount of peacock bass, which we never could see, but would jump by the hundreds up into the air. We were actually trying to shoot them out of the air like you guys, like people do for the silver carp.
Really? Yeah. How were you getting to jump up?
They naturally jumped. We have no idea why. We were running a generator, the main engine, because we didn't have a troller, and lights, and they just when we ran the bank, they just went absolutely crazy.
So just like silvers,
jumping in
huh?
every direction.
Yeah.
No kidding.
What's that?
Just like the silvers.
We had the biggest one of the night. We had jump into our boat.
Oh my god!
Just like a silver.
Oh,
A
that's
whole bunch of
interesting.
them jumped into the boat.
That's crazy.
I didn't know
suddenly
they did that.
they almost hit us. They're, we're ducking and diving and trying to shoot them. And I'm not sure why.
It must
to
be
this
that
day, I don't.
try to get away. I think that's one of the reasons that they say about the silvers is they have that instinct to try to get away and escape the sound.
Yep.
So they just
go whatever direction they're
want,
facing.
and they're
Right.
jumping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a peacock bass that were doing that, huh?
That was peacock bass.
No
that was doing
kidding.
it. Yep.
Very interesting.
I wonder that we went there and the moon was quite full. I wonder. I would like to redo that trip, but with no moon,
Yeah.
and just to see what the fish are like. They
Sure, that's
seem
what I
pretty
mean.
spooky. Almost all the fish were relatively spooky. I don't think we shot a single fish that was just laying on the bottom. So
Wow.
I wonder if that's just if all the fish of the Amazon basin are naturally spooky because there's so many predators everywhere.
Oh,
Everything's
yeah.
trying to eat you,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it was the full moon. I'm not entirely sure. So I'd like to go back to learn more about it.
So now, see, he was watching for years for a dry cycle over there, so the water was clear. Now he's planning to go over there with no moon.
Yeah, that's crazy.
See how that-
Everything's going to
exactly.
line up just perfectly for this next trip.
Well,
wow.
I think what I'm planning now is, what we did not find are the huge catfish, which is the Jau, Jau, and the Piraiba. Those are the ones that go over 100 pounds. We never saw any of those. So I don't know if they only live in the deepest holes. They told me that, during the day, they can't leave their layers in the deep holes because piranhas will eat them up.
Oh my god.
So we thought they might come out at night, but as like anything, the only way to find truly big catfish is to find a place where no one fishes for them and kills them and eats them.
Yep.
So I think I've actually found that there is a river in South America where it's mostly whitewater rafting. You can't get out of it when you go in. You've got to go in and you go for 7 or 8 days and you raft the river. Big time whitewater rafting with helmets and everything. And it's a gorge, so no people live on it. So no one has access to the river. And these guys who are also fishermen, who I'm now in contact with, it's kind of hard to communicate too much because they don't speak any English. But they've managed, they've fished in some of those pools that are along this whitewater rafting 8-day trip, and they're catching gigantic Jau catfish.
Interesting.
So it sounds like they're willing to let me raft it with them and bring a bow.
Oh my goodness.
And when you stop every night, try and on foot, or maybe I can't imagine they'd want me to do this on a Zodiac, which can possibly get punctured.
Right.
They're whitewater rafting boats.
Yes.
But theoretically, I could possibly get into an area through, hardcore whitewater rafting to find some really big catfish.
Very cool. That'd be a heck of a trip.
That
right
would
there
be
for you.
amazing. Yeah, it'd be cool to film that.
That's right up your alley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's on the list.
Yeah.
So, I have so much on the list. I have my Google
gosh.
Earth is filled with hundreds of pins. What I do for fun instead of watching TV is I just research fish species, find a possible place to shoot them and drop a pin.
Yeah.
And mark it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
One of the fish that you mentioned earlier when we were talking, Steve, was the tiger fish. Okay.
Yes, in Africa.
Yeah. I remember it was like my 3rd year working here at AMS Bowfishing. And I remember watching, I don't know if it was Discovery or National Geographic, one of them channels, the guy that does the river monsters.
Oh, Jeremy Wade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeremy Wade.
Yep.
He did the Arapaima,
Love that
too.
show.
When he said Arapaima,
Yeah.
that rang a bell.
And I remember watching that one episode, and he was trying to catch the tiger fish.
Yes.
And when I finally saw the pictures of this fish and how it looked and stuff, I was like, I want to be the first one to shoot one of them with a bow. Well, obviously that never happened, but
too late.
Yeah.
But that being said, no one, as far as I know, has ever shot a Goliath tigerfish, which is so hard for anyone to even catch on a hook and line.
Really?
I even heard that Jeremy Wade's had actually either been caught in a net or something about it, that it might not have been the most legitimate catch in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, they get truly huge. So a really, really big tigerfish, there's a few species, but let me call this subspecies, would be 20 pounds. A 20-pound tiger would be a true giant.
Okay.
But the Goliath gets much bigger than that. There are Goliaths in Central Africa in small rivers that people sight cast to, except it's in an area filled with bad people, rebels and gold miners, and they shoot at you, and it's not safe in any way.
Yeah.
So I don't think they've done that. I don't think and they fly in there with a helicopter. It's very expensive. You have to bring 2 helicopters, because if you're getting dropped off along a river in one helicopter and it breaks down, you need another helicopter to come rescue you.
Oh my God!
Right? You can't just have a helicopter in the middle of the jungle in Central Africa drop you 30 miles from camp, and then suddenly it doesn't start. So you always have to go with 2.
Yeah, that's unreal. You know,
so I don't know. I'm talking to someone now. A lot of people don't know about the crazy species. There's a species of catfish in Central Africa called the Kamba, Kamba, which gets up to 300 pounds as well. So, and they only live in the Congo Basin, and I just found someone who actually has them in his hunting area in Central African Republic.
Oh, wow.
So, who knows? Maybe I'll make an expedition there.
Right.
You know, as far as I know, no one's ever shot a catfish over 100 pounds. Is that right? You would know more. Matt, have you ever heard of a catfish over 100 pounds?
No, I have not. No, I haven't. Mm-mm.
Certainly not a North American catfish.
No.
There's no blue catfish or flathead.
70s, you got your 70s and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 85 was just shot in South Carolina.
Okay.
Yep. Sure.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, question for you.
Let's just talk about that. Other than gar, let me ask you guys, because you guys would be far more knowledgeable about North America. Have any big heads over 100 pounds been shot?
Yes.
There was one over 100.
Yeah, we just had it was on one of Justin Cook's teammates shot one last year in a tournament.
Yeah.
It was 103 or
it was
101.
10 something, 10 low digit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So there have been freshwater fish other than alligator gar that are over 100. Okay.
Yes. Well, the world record big mouth buff is 109, I believe, out of Texas.
Really?
Out of Texas, yeah. Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that they had broken 100 on the largemouth, big mouth buffalo.
That was shot quite a while ago. They actually had it in there wrong, Steve. They had it in there as a smallmouth buff. But then when you look at the pictures, somebody noticed the pictures 2 years ago or something. They're like, man, that's not a smallmouth buff. That's a big mouth buff. You know, you can tell by his mouth and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure grass carp have gotten close, haven't they? 90 pound in the 90s.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I think.
That
Alabama has the world record. What the heck is his name? I can't think of his name right now. But it literally looked like a wood tick. Like if you touched it with a fork, it would pop. It was so crazy.
Explode all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
You know, we shot buddy of mine, Colin Laster. We were in Virginia last year, and I saw this fish that was about the size of a basketball, and it was moving. It was in the hydrilla. It was in the weeds, and we had already passed it. And I said, Colin, shoot that. And he said, okay. And he shot it, and it was a goldfish.
Oh.
And he answered it. It's the Virginia state record goldfish. I forget the exact weight, but on video, we even cut it open. I thought it might pop too. It was, it was a living fish, but it was not just roe. It was weird tissue. It wasn't water. It was stuff. I don't know if it was cancer or what, but it was packed so full, just like you said, it looked like a wood tick. And it was just this bizarre, I guess, disease of some kind.
Wow.
And it was huge.
Yeah.
Crushed the world record. Or not the world record, the state record.
Wow.
That's interesting. Steve, speaking of records, how many BA records do you have, and what is your personal favorite?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, goodness. You know what? I've never even counted them all up. I suppose when I enter the stuff from South America, it would probably be over 100, maybe?
Good grief.
Triple digits.
Wow.
Oh, man.
I don't know. It's hard to say. The barracuda I shot in Florida, I shot a 40-pound barracuda.
Yes.
And it's probably one of my favorites because I'm friends with a fishing guide in Key West who's been doing this his entire life. He fishes on a 36-foot Invincible boat, does it every day. And I called him up, and he said, I've caught over 10,000 barracudas with clients everywhere, all around the Caribbean, Florida, the world, and I've never broken 40 pounds. He said,
my gosh.
That will definitely be the best fish you've ever killed in your whole life. You're never going to shoot better than that.
No
and
kidding.
Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. Maybe someone will. I don't know. But I thought, okay, that's a special fish.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Not just the fact that the species was cool, because I shot a red-tailed catfish, not a big one, in Guyana. We haven't put the picture out yet, but to me, that was like a huge, big deal. But it's not a particularly big red-tailed catfish. So it's hard to say what is my favorite. Do you go with something which is like really, really big for that species, or just something which no one ever has shot and you thought it's so cool and you always wanted to shoot?
Right. Yep. Yep. That's a tough one to answer.
It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick a favorite fish. I shot a bonefish in Hawaii. Something that fly fishermen totally revere. Well, in Hawaii, it's actually probably the most desired fish to eat.
Oh, wow.
Beloved delicacy, bonefish.
That's I would have that batfish, or what do you say that's a batfish, or what's that one that has a big fangs out of his bottom of his mouth?
Oh, the Payara, vampire.
Vampire, yes. That thing is really cool too.
Yeah, that is also really cool. I shot one of those on foot. We shot them from the boat and on foot. We would stop. So we did about half our shooting in Guyana on foot. So we've talked about the boat, but at that time of year, the water had dropped so low that there were a lot of pools in the rocks, especially. Mm-hmm. So around those rapids, there were big pools, some as big as swimming pools, and 50 yards long or even longer, with flowing water in them that were loaded with fish. Because what had happened is all of the creeks that flow into the Essequibo had dried up. You could see them, and they were all bone dry. So all of the fish that lived in those creeks now had to somehow make a living in the main river.
Yep.
And they packed into those pools because they're smaller and there's more shelter. And then of course the predatory fish followed them in, especially at night.
Right.
So that's why I shot that electric eel on foot. Maybe not 2 minutes, 5 minutes after shooting a big vampire fish, a Payara.
Oh, wow.
Also hunting in one of those pools. Oh. We stopped at the top of a waterfall. That was the night that Jonathan shot his huge tiger shovel nose. And our guide was so tired he wanted to rest before navigating these big rapids.
No kidding.
Like, I'm so tired. I need to lay down a little bit. So we grabbed our bows and we were like, okay, let's go shoot some fish. So we were hopping along the rocks. This is at 2 a.m. And, we found them loaded with fish of all kinds, small fish, big fish. So that's when, if anyone ever does an adventure trip, you have to make sure you have a flashlight on your bow.
Right.
Because, my tiger shovel nose, that was shot on foot. My biggest Payara on foot, the electric eel on foot. I'd say half the fish we shot were shot on foot.
Wow. That's
very
cool.
interesting.
Yeah. Yep. Don't need a big boat.
Yeah.
Yep. Very interesting.
Cool.
You could probably do very well on that trip, never shooting a fish on a boat if you tried to spend the whole night on foot, because we waded into those rapids at night. I mean, we literally would go waist deep, even deeper, and then and shoot fish.
What about the piranhas?
I shot a gigantic. Piranhas aren't active at night, so
wow.
It's safe to go in there at night. There might be other things at night, but piranhas aren't going to bite you at night.
Wow.
Now, during the day, it's a different story. We still waded them during the day. We wore pants because, like on the second day, Jonathan went for a swim in front of the camp, and we hear him shout, and he came up, and I don't think it was a piranha, but there's so many fish there with sharp teeth. And he ran back up, and a fish had taken a little chunk out of his
Oh,
leg.
my
Gosh, no, thank you. Good Lord.
Yeah, I mean, it was about the size of a chickpea, something like that. It just dunk.
Oh, my
Took
goodness.
a little chunk out of his leg, and he was like, "Man, I am not going back in there without pants on."
Good Lord,
And
that's
I said,
crazy.
You can't. I mean, it's so many of those little fish. Even the pacu have relatively sharp teeth. And interestingly enough, nearly all of the fish that we shot had bite marks, healed bite marks.
I was
in their
just gonna,
fins especially.
I was just gonna ask you that, because I remember being a kid in high school or elementary school. They had this movie that was out about piranhas, and somebody would fall in the water and it would be a boil of water and it would be turning into blood red and stuff like that. It's not like that, is it, Steve? I mean, there's not piranhas that just attack you like crazy if you fall in the water.
I don't think so. They do eat any dead fish up. That's for sure. Where we were doing most of our fishing, it was mostly the realm of the black piranha, which is really spooky. We tried to shoot them, and I didn't even manage to get a shot off at one.
Wow.
So that's the one that will take big chunks out of the big catfish when you're catching them. And all the stingrays we shot, there's freshwater stingrays there, by the way, and fairly big ones. Beautiful freshwater stingrays. And nearly all of them have big U-shaped bites, healed bites out of the edges of the disc.
Yeah. Wow.
So the red piranha, the one you're talking, and they live singly, so they're alone. And we put out pacu heads and carcasses, and a couple of times, and just waited on the bank, 15 yards away. And the one time, a big black piranha came in, and he saw me starting to lift my arm and disappeared, never came back.
No kidding.
Wow. Spooky.
But if you go to the lagoons where there were two types of peacock bass there. The larger Guyanan yellow peacock bass, which I shot a huge one with this tiny little bow that I make. And then there's the butterfly peacock bass. That lives in the lagoons with the red-bellied piranha. And we only went there at night, but they did tell me that if you put fish carcasses in the water, you can get them right up to the boat and they'll swarm it and eat them all up.
Wow.
So they were like, just go there during the day and you'll shoot as many red-bellied piranhas as you want, the red piranha. But it was a 2-hour drive, and we were there for 6 days, and, we had to go way up these rapids. And the thing you have to manage when you're on trips like this, which is what I had to do in Africa, is you have to manage how much you can exhaust your guide. So you always have to have that in the back of your head.
I bet, yes.
While you might be Superman and be able to, stay up all night on one Red Bull, he can't, nor does he really want to.
Right.
So, if you go up, if we realize, okay, if we say, let's go to that lake for a red-bellied piranha, it's a 2-hour drive all the way up through treacherous rapids, and then we shoot, and it's a 2-hour ride back down the boat, he's probably not going to go out that night.
Right. Yes.
Yep. So you have to sort of judge it. I remember when I took Shaki out in Somaliland, we had government-appointed guards, bodyguards. They'd stand around you with AK-47s. You're not allowed to go anywhere by law without your special security unit, these ex-soldiers who stand there. So Shaki's a really hard hunter. He's a very dedicated, very hard hunter. And, we're there on the first day, and he's charging up the mountain trying to spot this little antelope called Byra. And I said, man, you need to relax because this guy only has a few hours of hiking in him. I'm just giving you that heads up. Yeah. And we can't legally be anywhere without him. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. We exhausted the guy on the first day. And he was like, by noon, he was like, I'm done. I'm sitting under the tree for the rest of the day.
Be darned.
And I said, listen, you have to manage who is not only yourself, but who's with you.
Right.
Yep. So I said to him, look, I'm going to put the feelers out. All of the guards can wait with us, and I am going to find goat herders and tell them we'll give them a reward if they spot Byra, and we will slowly move our way at the bottoms of the mountains. And if a goat herder spots one, they can flag us and we can climb up so we don't take our guard and exhaust them. And that's exactly what happened.
No,
very smart.
Yes.
Yeah, way to work around that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that's one thing you have to worry about when you're doing one of these trips where you have someone who is a guide and, is required to be driving the boat, or whatever. If you're not doing it fully self-guided, you have to make sure, while you might want to stay up all night and then fish all day, it's not really possible.
Right. He's not going to do that
Yep.
for you.
Yep.
He's not going to do that.
Right.
So our guy was quite game because he was an Amerindian guy, and he had been using a bow his whole life. And we gave him a bow. He missed his first shot and then killed a pacu on the second shot ever with a modern bow.
Wow. That's really
I left him a bow there with a handful of arrows, and we were walking away. And I said to Jonathan, I said, I might have just cursed the Essequibo River. Those fish are in real danger right now.
Exactly.
He's going to clean that place out because that guy was a predator.
Right. So, Steve, do you have, I know you've got a ton of adventures, but do you have one that just sticks out, which is a little more crazy, or maybe not crazy, but just maybe one that really sticks out in your head?
You mean for a bow fishing adventure?
For bow fishing, yes.
For the weirdest, not just adventure, I would say probably the weirdest kill I had where I actually shot a fish. Not weirdest, but probably the craziest was when I shot a spotted eagle ray in North Carolina. So I actually discovered that it's legal to take spotted eagle rays in North Carolina. Now people are doing it regularly at the Stingray tournament, and someone shot a 330-pounder last year.
Oh,
the world record.
gosh.
Jeez.
But I had called the DNR and actually confirmed this. So I was with a friend on the intercoastal, and, I had never heard of anyone shooting a spotted eagle ray. No one really knew it was legal. And I didn't even think I'd see one. So there swims by this spotted eagle ray, and I shot it. And man, can they fight? Because stingrays, you get the stingrays which flap like the cow nose.
Yep.
They have crazy power, and then you get the ones that wiggle like the southern stingray that kind of just like wiggle their disc.
Yep.
They're not that powerful, but the flapping ones, and this thing had huge power. At some point during the next 45 minutes, Connor got an arrow into the same fish. So now we're both fighting it. And we actually got a gaff into it and couldn't hold on to it. And I'm a pretty big, strong guy. Still couldn't hold on to it. So then eventually Connor's arrow pulls out and his line's all wrapped around mine.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh goodness, there's only one arrow in this fish. It's been 45 minutes and the arrow, you know how the longer an arrow's in a fish, the more it damages the tissue and eventually pulls out.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, okay, I have a spare bow in a bag. His bow, all the line is out. It's not easy to get him back up and running. So I handed the bow with the fish on it, with the stingray on it, to my buddy, and went and grabbed the other bow without realizing that somehow the reel was free spooled. So I open the case, grab my other bow, run to the front of the boat, and he's handing it back to me, and his arm starts to get jerked away, and as it turns out, it spooled the line. He gives it a bit. He holds on to it, and boom, line breaks. Gone. And I was like, oh my goodness. We're all crestfallen after having the gaff in it. Think about how close we are to glory.
Goodness.
Got the gaff in it, everything. Now it's gone. So we sat down. I was like, okay, let's have a drink. We had a soda. We're sitting there all bummed out. I eventually re-spooled some line for me and Connor, got everything ready. We're like, okay, let's not let this ruin the night. Let's keep fishing. So we're cruising along. It was probably a mile away, I don't know, an hour later, and we're going down the intercoastal. The water's crystal clear. And I'm looking down, and I'm like, is that what I think it is?
No way.
And I'm looking. It's my orange line. The end of it is cruising along.
Oh my gosh!
Not kidding you.
My gosh!
So I apparently Connor says I just shouted, "There's my line! I'm going in!" So I threw my bow down. I had my phone, my wallet in my pocket. I had a camera in my pocket, which never worked again. And I dove in the water, straight out of the front of the boat, dove in. It was more than 6 feet deep because it was over my head. And I just put my hand on the sand in the bottom and swept until I felt the line, grabbed it, wrapped it around my hand. It eventually actually almost cut 2 of my fingers off.
No kidding.
Swam to the surface. I was like, pull me in, because I had wrapped it on my hand. There's no drag. I'm fighting it with the line wrapped around my finger. Anyway, they pulled me in. I wrapped it around the cleat, and I was like, you've got to keep up with this thing. Otherwise, it's going to break the line. And luckily for me, it decided to turn, and it swam past the boat, and I grabbed the bow and shot it right behind the head, actually stoned it, and Connor put an arrow in it, and we actually pulled it on the boat. And suddenly the whole night was turned around.
Holy cow. I bet. Talk about from zero to hero quick.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure there are other people have the stories of where, they broke off on a fish, and then suddenly later in the night, the same fish with an arrow sticking up, swimming along.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And to me, those are just great stories.
That's
because
awesome.
It goes from the hero to the zero, from being so bummed out to wow.
Yes.
I guess that's probably one of them.
That's
awesome.
very cool.
That's awesome.
I'm going to the water.
Grab your line.
One of the beauties of bow fishing, though, is there's probably always, on most nights, a cool little adventure story that's happening.
I agree with you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because you get so many opportunities and get on a good night, let's say, and shoot so many fish that there's so many good stories that come out of bow fishing. That's why I love it so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, you do it with friends between the highs and the lows and the high fives and the rest of it. It's just, and the adventure. Yeah. It's just, I don't think there's that much in the outdoor world that compares.
Yeah.
Right. And the adventures that you have been on are just,
next level.
It's absolutely
crazy.
They are. I mean, and for your journeys, I mean, that's just unbelievable. And I think we need to have, you back on, here, later on in the season and finish up some more.
Because, anytime you want. I'll have several more. I have a lot planned for this year.
Good deal.
I think the Africa trip will be good. And there's one to the Persian Gulf on the way to Africa. I think I'm going to stop in the Persian Gulf, and there's going to be a revisitation of South America. So, and if I can squeeze it back to Hawaii, I did well in Hawaii, but there's other things to hunt like axis deer, which we did, but we only had an afternoon. I'd like to do more of that.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know about you guys, but generally when you go back for round 2, you just do a lot better because you've learned so much.
Exactly.
You've been able to digest it and go back with so much more knowledge that it's just, the second trip is usually so much better than the first. That's what happened in California for the leopard sharks. I went out there for leopard sharks, never got one on the first trip. Still had a great time, but we went back. I went back with Aaron Volk and Laster. Aaron Volk, that's your friend. That's the only other person who works in Vader with me is Aaron Volk. Mm-hmm. That's my one guy that I've hired. But anyway, we went back a second time and found a flat where everywhere you looked, huge leopard sharks.
Oh my gosh.
We found them on a feeding frenzy, feeding on a mud flat. It was insane.
Wow. What were they eating? Oysters?
Little octopus.
Oh, little octopus.
And worms. And something that was like a bloodworm. Can you believe that? These huge sharks eating worms?
That's insane.
Jeez.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? They come into the mud flats and there were some big ones, like 7-footers.
That's crazy.
That's going to be wild just to witness something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it was wild. It was incredible.
Some of the stuff that your eyes have seen.
Yeah, we can't even envision it, really.
No. 22 miles up a river in a jungle at night.
Yeah.
That was great.
When you hear about that, the average person around here is like, well, that's not 22 miles up the river. Not. It's different than going up 22 miles up the Ohio River, the Cumberland River, or the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
This is different.
Right. And the difference there is, of course, you're in that canoe and whatever. But when you go up a river like that, you're truly, in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
It's not like you can.
Right.
You can, when you get tired, you can go to the 7-Eleven and get another Red Bull.
Yes.
Or, when you're hungry, you stop off at McDonald's. There's just,
That's very cool.
That's all. That's all you got is what you bring in there.
Yeah, unreal. Unreal.
So you always have to bring everything you possibly need. So
Yep.
I bring a huge toolkit. I broke down my bow and brought it in pieces. I generally do that. It's so easy to put it back together. It takes me 2 minutes.
Yep.
And that's, that's that. And it depends on where you go. I mean, sometimes it's easiest, even though it's totally legal to have a bow in these places, sometimes it's easiest when you're going through customs to just not have anything with that someone can give you a hard time about.
Yes. Right. Make it as easy as possible.
So I don't bring hard bow cases or anything like that. I travel with my bow broken down in a normal duffel bag, long enough to hold my arrows.
Right. Right.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that
put it
we
all
will
together right there on the side of the river.
Yes. Yes. It makes it a lot easier, like you said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, I'd love to have have another one of these days to try and fill you in on what's happening.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll be mentioning your name in a bunch of BA records when we go through that on our podcast every couple of weeks here. I'm sure we'll be mentioning your name.
Okay.
And thank you.
I'll enter all the stuff from South America. I haven't been quite on time about it, but I'll put all that stuff in. But anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it, Steve, and best of luck on your journeys, and we'll keep in touch, man. You take care.
Thank you so
Steve.
much.
Thank you.
All right, Matt. All right, Derek. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Talk about a guy with some bullfishing passion.
It's really
Matt,
cool.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
You can tell the passion just through the adventures and the stories that he tells.
Mm-hmm.
A passion for not only bullfishing, but hunting, conservation.
Right.
What a cool guy. That's really special that we're able to connect with him.
It was great to have
cool.
Steve on and to hear his stories. We hope that you were able to sit back and just listen and enjoy Steve's stories as much as we did here, because we just sat here like we were sitting around the campfire and just really enjoyed the stories that he was telling us, the adventures that he had over there. Really neat stuff. And I can see why he does have a lot of BAA records, because he's got a lot of passion for the sport of bullfishing.
Absolutely. Could you imagine shooting spawning buffs on shore sometime in the next month or two, and you just have something come up and bite a chunk out of your leg? I'd be freaking out of there, baby.
Right.
Holy cow. That's crazy.
Like we said, when you think about going 22 miles up a river
in a 30-foot canoe.
Yeah, here in the States, you're like,
yeah, right.
That's not a big deal, really,
Yeah.
Do it over there in the jungle
with a deck
in the middle of the night.
With a deck you just made on shore.
Yeah, with you're not taking an airboat up through that stuff.
No.
Pretty cool stuff.
That's
pretty
cool.
cool.
Very
stuff.
cool. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you had a little something for us here, Matt.
I do. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Let's get ready to Get ready for Fish That You Wish.
All right, this fish comes to us out of a state that produces more apples than any other state in the country.
I don't know this one.
Glaciers galore, as this state has over 3,000. And it is the only state that is named after a president.
Aha!
I'm talking about the evergreen state of Washington. This fish was shot June 5th, 2022 by Justin Priest with a length of 42 inches. This monster of a Mirror Carp kicked the scales at a hefty 42 pounds, making it the BAA World Record. And that's a fish you wish you shot. Mm-hmm.
I don't think of Washington necessarily when I think of bullfishing states. In a 42?
Yes, 42-pound
mirror?
Yeah.
Good Lord, that's a tank anywhere.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Very cool.
Pretty cool stuff right there.
Oh, during Washington. I always like to try to guess the state when you're.
Did you get it when I said named
when
after
you
the
said
president?
the president? I'm like, what? Washington.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, very cool. I tell you what, guys. Don't forget to check out AMS Below the H2O on Carbon TV. We're uploading episodes one a month here, Matt. Are we uploading those now? Mm-hmm. We've had our Boise Butterflies out. Our next one is Chasing the Push. That will be uploaded in April, sometime in April. Second April Saturday 12th, in April, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. If you guys are heading out bow fishing this weekend or this week or anytime in the near future, best of luck. Be safe.
Yes.
And Also most important, not quite as important as safety, because safety is always the most important. But secondly most important, make sure you have a plan on where to dump your fish. We don't want any bad apples out there. No. We don't want the sport getting a bad name. Have a plan and take care of your fish you shoot.
That's right. That's right. I'll tell you what, Schmitty, tournaments are starting. Fish are on the move.
Yep.
The fish are unpressured right now. Get out there. And like we always say, Schmitty, take a few to Barrel Town.
Absolutely.
I mean, heck, you can even sing our favorite song while it's sticking fish, Schmitty.
I want to go bowfish. I want to go bowfish. We're going to shoot carp down, take them down to Barrel Town. I want to go bowfish.
Schmitty, that wraps up episode 97 of the Bowfishing Buzz, brought to you by AMS Bowfishing and
Mega Mouse Bowfishing as well, our fantastic sponsors. And Designs Leatherwork and Embroidery. Efficiency Bowfishing Lights by Outdoor Innovations USA. Episode 97 is a wrap there, Mr. Schillinger.
That's right. Thank you to Steve Kobrine.
Yes.
We had a wonderful time listening to your adventures.
Yes.
Very cool stuff.
Absolutely.
So from all of us here at AMS Bowfishing and Mega Mouse Bowfishing, we wish you the best of luck. And remember, aim low.
Think big. Thanks for listening, guys.